Right now, like hidden inside some massive humming data center, an AI is literally watching a human worker's mouse clicks. It's learning exactly how to navigate their drop-down menus, how to do their job, and get this, it is getting ready to pay for its own server space using a newly minted crypto wallet.
Haha. It is the ultimate sci-fi movie come to life, right before our eyes.
It really is. Welcome to Casutalks, everyone. I am so incredibly pumped you're hanging out with us today because honestly, we are crossing the absolute ultimate threshold. We are officially moving from AI that just, talks to you to AI that acts for you.
It is the technological transition of the century, and honestly, it has this wonderfully dramatic flair to it, which, I always appreciate. We aren't just looking at text-generating chatbots anymore. Oh, no. We are looking at the birth of independent digital agents stepping right into the real economy.
Yeah, and grabbing a coffee with us today means you are getting the absolute cutting edge of this shift. We have a wild stack of sources to unpack. Like, we're talking deep corporate financials from Amazon, Apple, and Meta.
Oh, the financials are fascinating.
Totally. Plus, we've got this reality-bending entertainment tech from Netflix, some fresh financial regulations out of Hong Kong, and, wait for it, a literal geopolitical showdown between the White House, military contractors, and the Vatican over the moral soul of artificial intelligence.
I mean, the sheer theatricality of it all is just phenomenal. But before we dive into the deep end, we definitely need to set the stage with a quick heads up.
Right, very important.
Yeah. A lot of the documents we are unpacking today touch on some extremely heated political and religious conflicts. Like we've got the current U.S. administration, the Pope, big tech billionaires, all just colliding.
Yeah, things definitely get spicy in these sources.
Yeah.
But to be totally clear right up front, for everyone listening, our job today is not to take sides. Like, we aren't offering our own political commentary or endorsing anything here. We are completely impartial.
Exactly.
We're simply here to unpack the raw data from the source material and show you why these massive institutions are basically going to war. No endorsements, just the fascinating facts to help you understand the big picture.
Right, our entire mission is clarity. We just want to map out how, a simple line of code in a Silicon Valley server farm ripples out to affect global geopolitics.
So let's jump right into the infrastructure arms race.
Yeah.
Because, you cannot build an autonomous digital brain without a staggering amount of physical metal and electricity.
No, absolutely not. The physical footprint is everything.
And I was just blown away by the sheer volume of money Amazon is throwing around. They just announced this jaw-dropping new investment in Anthropic. They are pouring in up to $25 billion.
$25 billion, just casual.
Right. Like $5 billion is moving immediately, and another $20 billion is tied to commercial milestones. And keep in mind, that is on top of the $8 billion they've already invested. In return, Anthropic is committing to spend $100 billion on Amazon Web Services over the next decade.
You really have to stop and think about what that $100 billion actually buys, because the mechanism here is what's truly fascinating. Yeah, this isn't just software moving through the cloud. Anthropic is securing 5 gigawatts of physical power capacity to run its Claude models, utilizing Amazon's custom AWS Trainium chips. Specifically, the Trainium 2 and Trainium 3.
Okay, 5 gigawatts. I literally had to look that up. That is not just like a big data center. That is the equivalent of running several full-scale nuclear power plants solely to process computer code.
Oh, exactly. You have to picture the physical footprint of this. We are talking about vast tracts of land, massive industrial cooling towers to keep the chips from just melting into slag, and a localized strain on the power grid that fundamentally alters the surrounding geography. Amazon is projecting $200 billion in capital expenditures this year alone, mostly on this AI infrastructure. They are physically terraforming the earth to build the foundational layer for the next decade of the global economy.
That is wild. But then, you flip the script and look at Apple, and they are playing an entirely different game.
A very different game.
Yeah. We have news from our sources that John Ternus is set to succeed Tim Cook as CEO on September 1st, 2026. Cook is moving over to executive chairman.
And you have to look closely at Ternus's background to understand why this matters. The drama is in the details. He is a mechanical engineer.
Right.
He didn't come up through cloud software. He led the hardware engineering for iconic physical products. He was the mind behind the tactile feel of the new MacBook Neo, the exact weight distribution of the iPad, and the iPhone 17. By putting a mechanical engineer at the helm, Apple is signaling that their ultimate priority is absolute dominance over physical devices.
Meanwhile, though, their AI strategy seems to be kind of bleeding out. Their AI-enabled Siri is delayed until 2026 or maybe later due to massive technical challenges.
Ouch.
Yeah, and they are actively losing their top AI talent to Meta. The sources highlight that Meta is poaching staff from former OpenAI CTO Mira Murati's new $12 billion startup, Thinking Labs, leaving Apple struggling to catch up in the talent war.
This really sets up the defining philosophical clash of the tech industry. Like, Apple believes that whoever controls the glass you touch, the device in your pocket or on your wrist, owns the consumer relationship. But Amazon and Meta are betting that the hardware is just a vessel. They believe the invisible intelligence layer running inside those 5 gigawatt data centers is what actually dictates the future.
Okay, I have to challenge that Amazon philosophy though. I mean, is Amazon basically building a multi-billion-dollar high-speed railroad before the trains are even fully operational?
That's a good way to look at it.
Right. Like if you build all this infrastructure, but people only interact with Apple's beautiful glass screens, doesn't Apple win the decade?
Well, if we look at the historical precedent of utilities, Amazon's bet actually makes perfect sense. Think of AI as the new electricity. If you own the power grid and the generation plants, you really do not care who manufactures the toaster, the television, or the light bulb. You profit fractions of a cent every single time someone, anywhere, plugs a device into the wall. Amazon wants to be the invisible grid.
Okay, that makes sense. But if Amazon is building the grid, what exactly is drawing all this power? Like, why do we need 5 nuclear reactors worth of electricity for AI?
The plot thickens.
The sources point to a massive paradigm shift. AI is no longer just answering our questions, it is transitioning into doing our actual jobs.
Welcome to the era of agentic AI. This is the leap from a passive encyclopedia to an active participant in your workflow.
And this is where things get slightly terrifying but wildly fascinating. We have a leaked memo from Meta's CTO, Andrew Bosworth.
Oh, the Bosworth memo, yes.
Yeah, he is internally pushing an initiative called the Agent Transformation Accelerator, and specifically a tool called the Model Capability Initiative, or MCI. Meta is actively tracking their US employees' mouse movements, their keystrokes, and their screen activity.
And we really have to break down why tracking keystrokes is the holy grail for this technology. Generative AI, the chatbots we are all used to, they learned by reading billions of pages of text on the internet.
Right.
But an agentic AI needs to learn how to operate a computer. It needs to absorb what the industry calls the data exhaust of human labor.
What exactly does data exhaust look like for me? You know, the average person sitting at a desk.
Think about the subconscious micro actions you take every single day. When you open a spreadsheet, you might highlight a column, use a quick keyboard shortcut to format the date, click a very specific drop-down menu.
Oh, I do that constantly.
Right. Then you realize you made a typo, hit backspace 3 times, and then save the file. You don't even think about it. Meta is harnessing that subconscious physical intuition. They aren't just teaching a machine what a spreadsheet is. They are teaching it the physical rhythm of how a human executes a workflow so that AI can eventually just take over the mouse and do it autonomously.
That is bonkers. So the AI learns how to do my job by quietly watching my screen. But here is the massive missing link that literally blew my mind.
Let's hear it.
How does an autonomous digital agent actually function in a capitalist economy? Like, if the agent is running my workflow and realizes it needs to buy a piece of data from a third-party server or rent extra computing power to finish a render, how does it pay for it? It doesn't have a wallet in its back pocket.
Which brings us directly to the incredible developments happening in Hong Kong regarding stablecoins. Because, quite frankly, traditional banking infrastructure is fundamentally incompatible with artificial intelligence.
Wait, why is that? Why can't an AI just use like a corporate Visa card?
Because traditional credit networks are built for humans. They require identity verification, they have API limits, and a transaction can take days to fully settle through a clearinghouse.
Oh, true.
An AI agent operates in milliseconds. It might need to execute 10,000 microtransactions in a single second with servers all over the globe. It needs programmable, instantaneous money that is native to the internet.
And according to our sources, a company called Anchor Point Financial, which is a joint venture between Animoca Brands, Standard Chartered, and HKT, just secured a license for the HKDAP stablecoin. That is a Hong Kong dollar at par stablecoin.
This is the missing financial plumbing. Regulated stablecoins settle on a blockchain almost instantly. They allow code to seamlessly talk to code and exchange value without waiting for a human bank manager to approve the transfer.
Wow.
By securing this license, Hong Kong is building the exact regulated infrastructure required for agentic commerce. They are giving these autonomous AI agents native digital wallets so they can negotiate contracts and pay their own server bills.
Wait, I have to pause and just marvel at the absurdity of this.
Oh, ha, please do.
We are literally letting an artificial intelligence watch our every mouse click so it can learn to mimic our jobs. And the moment it learns how to do it, we are handing it a crypto wallet so it can go out into the economy and independently spend money. It feels exactly like teaching a teenager to drive, and the second they pass the test, you hand them a black card and the keys to a Ferrari.
Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. And to make your analogy even more accurate, you didn't even sit in the passenger seat to teach that teenager the rules of the road. You just let them learn by watching you drive through a window.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That is what training on data exhaust is. It is no wonder cybersecurity and compliance circles are sounding alarm bells. You are empowering autonomous systems to independently allocate financial resources based purely on mimicked human behavior, complete with all our flaws and unpredictable variables.
And as these agents get more autonomous and gain purchasing power, they are also gaining the ability to fundamentally alter the digital reality we consume every day. Which bridges us to our next major theme, the manipulation of reality and the growing public backlash.
Oh, the backlash is real. And we are seeing capabilities emerging that make generating a fake photo look like absolute child's play.
Case in point, Netflix just open sourced a new AI model on Hugging Face called Void. It doesn't just erase an object from a video frame like, photoshopping a tourist out of your vacation picture.
Yeah.
Void completely recalculates the physical causality of the entire scene.
The phrase recalculates physical causality is what makes this a total game changer.
Totally. The source gives this visceral example. Imagine a massive, high-budget car crash scene in an action movie. A car slams into a concrete wall. There's thick smoke, shattered glass flying everywhere, and deep skid marks burned into the pavement.
A classic Hollywood scene.
Exactly. The Void model can erase the crashing car entirely. But then it understands the physics of the environment well enough to know that without the car, the smoke wouldn't exist, the glass wouldn't be shattered, and the pavement wouldn't be scuffed. It realistically recalculates the scene, replacing the debris with pristine pavement, as if a car had never driven down that road at all.
It is stunning. It possesses an algorithmic understanding of how the physical world reacts to momentum and mass. This means the reality presented in digital media is becoming completely fluid. You can seamlessly and physically accurately alter the outcome of a recorded event.
But here's the grand paradox of this entire deep dive. While capabilities like Void are skyrocketing and companies are handing out digital wallets to agents, the public is actually pumping the brakes.
Oh, hard break.
Yeah, a new Stanford study highlighted in our sources shows that public sentiment is aggressively souring. Gen Z, a generation that has never known a world without the internet, specifically wants less to do with AI. They are deeply fatigued by it.
And yet, corporate America is heavily pushing what we can call the AI's inevitable trap.
Oh, the Allbirds example perfectly illustrates this trap. Allbirds is a shoe company. They make comfortable sneakers. But they announced an AI pivot, and the market rewarded them with a temporary stock spike of 600%.
Haha, just for uttering the letters A and I.
Right. If the public is increasingly exhausted by AI altering their reality and tracking their keyboards, why is Silicon Valley shoving it down our throats? Are they entirely blind to the friction they are causing?
Oh, they are completely aware of the friction, but they are captured by the structural incentives of Wall Street. When a footwear company can multiply its valuation by 6 times overnight simply by adopting an AI narrative, the financial gravity is impossible to resist.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The tech industry's underlying belief is that the massive efficiency gains brought by agentic AI will ultimately bulldoze over any consumer discomfort. They view Gen Z's fatigue as just a temporary speed bump on an inevitable superhighway.
But that speed bump is rapidly turning into a massive roadblock. This fear of autonomous, reality-altering agents operating with their own wallets has escalated way beyond consumer annoyance. It has created a moral vacuum, and that vacuum has sparked a full-blown geopolitical and theological battle for control.
And this is where the drama peaks. This is where every thread we have discussed today, the 5 gigawatt infrastructure, the autonomous workflows, the fluid reality collides with human values on a global institutional scale.
The sources outline a direct, blistering conflict between the White House, heavily backed by big tech, and the Vatican. The tension reached a boiling point recently when President Trump shared an AI-generated image of himself, styled as Christ, immediately after publicly clashing with Pope Leo XIV over a military campaign in Iran.
The imagery is highly provocative, sure, but the underlying structural conflict is what really deserves our attention here. This is a battle over who possesses the ultimate authority to define the moral boundaries of artificial intelligence.
The stakes are incredibly high, especially when you bring in U.S. military contractors like Palantir. Peter Thiel, Palantir's founder, actually traveled to Rome in March 2026 for a semi-private visit to deliver lectures on theology and AI regulation, basically attempting to sway the Vatican's stance.
And according to the analysis, it was a spectacular institutional failure. The Vatican effectively labeled Palantir's position as a modern heresy and completely closed off institutional contact.
Palantir triggered this by releasing a 22-point doctrine that essentially treats AI the same way we treat nuclear weapons.
Right.
They frame autonomous AI as an inevitable military deterrent, necessary for tasks like target selection and strategic dominance.
Right.
But the Vatican, heavily guided by the Pope's chief AI advisor, Paolo Benanti, is fighting back with a concept they call algorithmics.
Algorithmics, it's a fascinating term. It is the strict demand that AI must be permanently stripped of any independent moral judgment. The Vatican codified this in a document called Note Antiqua et Nova. Their argument is that moral decisions, especially those involving lethal force or the valuation of human life, cannot be outsourced to an algorithm. It must remain the exclusive, burdensome domain of human conscience.
I have to play devil's advocate here, though. Isn't the Vatican being somewhat hypocritical?
How so?
Well, they are fighting a global war against AI autonomy. Yet the sources note that they actively use a chatbot called a Magisterium AI to explain Catholic doctrine, and they use real-time AI to translate sermons into 60 languages at St. Peter's Basilica.
I mean, it is easy to view that as hypocrisy, but the Vatican is drawing a very specific philosophical line between a tool and an agent.
Okay.
They embrace AI as a tool, a glorified calculator that translates languages or retrieves documents. They absolutely reject AI as an agent, a system that independently decides right from wrong. And to truly understand why the Vatican is taking such an uncompromising global stance, we have to look at the demographic data.
The global population numbers really explain the geopolitical strategy here.
Exactly. The global Islamic demographic currently boasts a 3.1 fertility rate compared to the Christian rate of 2.7. Demographically speaking, Islam is on a trajectory to reach numerical parity with Christianity in the coming decades. Furthermore, major Islamic centers of learning, such as Al-Azhar, are already establishing their own robust ethical frameworks for artificial intelligence.
Right, the sources explicitly mention the UAE developing the Falcon LLM model, specifically with built-in Sharia-compliant filters.
So place yourself in the Vatican's position. If the Catholic Church cedes the moral regulation of AI to the efficiency doctrines of Silicon Valley military contractors, they risk entirely losing their status as a global moral arbiter. And they would be losing it precisely at the moment they are facing a massive demographic and ideological challenge from the Islamic world.
Wow.
This isn't just about computer code, it is about the survival and relevance of a 2,000-year-old institution.
And this seemingly high-level theological debate is causing massive political earthquakes right here in the United States. Interestingly, the Catholic Church in the U.S. is actually experiencing a growth spurt. They welcomed 90,000 new adult members in 2024 alone, heavily driven by the growing Hispanic demographic and Gen Z migrating away from Protestantism.
But the current U.S. administration's aggressive policy maneuvers have directly alienated this crucial growing voter base.
Yeah, the catalyst was the administration's suspension of the U.S. RIP refugee program. By halting that program, they effectively severed a $180 million partnership with Catholic bishops who were heavily involved in implementing those migration services.
And that policy decision has created a severe, immediate electoral vulnerability. The administration's approval rating among both white and Hispanic Catholics has absolutely plummeted.
The data shows that 60% of American Catholics now actively disapprove of the administration's methods, particularly regarding the aggressive posturing in the Iran conflict.
When you map that disapproval onto the U.S. Electoral College, it spells serious trouble for Republican majorities in crucial swing states heading into the 2026 midterms. We are talking about states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, where Catholics make up anywhere from 22 to 28% of the total electorate.
That's a huge chunk.
Oh, massive. In states decided by razor-thin margins, losing just a few percentage points of the Catholic vote means you lose the state entirely.
which is fascinating because it is actively elevating other figures within the party, like Marco Rubio. He is strategically aligning himself much more closely with the church's stance on these moral issues, deliberately avoiding the aggressive tech utopian rhetoric of big tech.
It perfectly illustrates the butterfly effect of our era, a philosophical debate over how a line of code operates inside an Amazon data center ripples out to alter the balance of power in the United States Congress.
It is truly staggering when you zoom out. Let's just briefly recap the wild journey we've been on today. We started with Amazon pouring $25 billion into building the physical 5 gigawatt infrastructure required to house these massive new AI mines.
Yep.
We unpacked how Meta is actively harvesting the data exhaust of our keystrokes so these agents can learn our workflows, and how Hong Kong is handing them regulated stablecoins so they have the financial autonomy to pay for it all.
We then explored the public's reaction, how people are feeling deeply fatigued by reality-altering tools like Netflix's VAR-aid, even as Wall Street relentlessly rewards the inevitable push toward AI integration.
And it all crashed together in this epic geopolitical showdown. You have big tech and the White House treating AI as the ultimate nuclear deterrent, clashing head-on with the Vatican's demand for algorithmics as the church fights to maintain its moral authority in a rapidly shifting demographic landscape, threatening to upend the 2026 U.S. elections in the process.
Everything we discussed is part of the exact same transition.
It really is. And to you, hanging out and listening to this, I want to remind you why this matters to your daily life. The software you open at your desk tomorrow morning, the media you stream to relax this weekend, and the global security policies that govern the world you live in, they are all actively being rewritten right now. They're being rewritten by unseen autonomous agents and by the massive institutional powers fighting a quiet war to control them.
Which leaves us with a totally new, critical question to consider as we wrap up. We've talked a lot about agents operating autonomously with their own wallets. But if an AI agent holding a digital wallet and operating under its own embedded ethical code makes a massive mistake, say it bankrupts a small company during an automated negotiation, or causes physical harm by rerouting a supply chain, who actually goes to jail?
Oh, wow.
We're rushing to build the financial and computational infrastructure for autonomous action, but we have absolutely zero infrastructure for autonomous legal consequence.
We are giving them the keys to the Ferrari, but nobody wrote the traffic laws.
Yeah.
That is incredibly thought-provoking. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive on Casutalks. We absolutely loved having you here. Make sure you come back tomorrow because we have even more fascinating news to unpack. Don't forget to like, share, and hit the comments. Drop the word algorithmics in the comments if you made it this far, just to confuse everyone else. Haha. Keep questioning the world around you, and we will catch you next time.